You think your closest friends always have your back, right? Well, imagine overhearing them rip you apart when they thought you weren't listening. That's what happened to me, and it shattered everything I believed about loyalty. My name is Daniel, I'm 23 years old, and until recently, I truly believed I had the perfect circle of friends. To anyone looking from the outside, we seemed unbreakable. We weren't just college buddies or casual hangout acquaintances. We were family, or so I thought. There were 5 of us: Alex, the joker who always knew how to light up a room; Sarah, the planner and mom friend, making sure we never forgot birthdays or reservations; Jenna, my supposed best friend since freshman year who swore we were like siblings; Liam, the quiet, steady one who never stirred drama but always kept the peace; and then me, Daniel, the guy who thought he'd hit the jackpot with friends who'd be around forever. We had our rituals, those little traditions that make a group feel sacred. Friday nights belonged to Alex's living room, greasy pizza boxes spread across the coffee table while we argued over movies or played card games until someone passed out on the couch. Sundays were brunch at Ellie's Diner, a small corner place that had sticky menus but the best pancakes in town. We even took road trips together every summer, cramming into Liam's SUV, blasting throwback playlists, singing horribly off-key, and documenting it all like we were the stars of our own sitcom. To me, that was happiness. That was safety. That was proof that no matter how crazy the world got, I had my people. I can still picture last year's New Year's Eve party in Alex's apartment. Everyone squeezed into the tiny space, lights strung up like a Pinterest board, Sarah mixing cocktails like she was born for it, Jenna dragging me onto the makeshift dance floor. We counted down to midnight, clinked glasses, shouted promises about best year ever. I remember standing there, looking around at their faces, flushed with alcohol and joy, and thinking, this is it. These are my forever people. But forever is a dangerous word. The cracks, I realize now, were always there. Subtle things I brushed aside because I didn't want to see them. Like the time Sarah forgot to send me the group chat invite for her birthday dinner. Oh, I thought Alex already told you. Or the time Jenna canceled on our study session last minute, only for me to see her tagged in a coffee date photo with the others. Or the way Liam's eyes sometimes darted away when I entered the room mid-conversation, his voice suddenly quieter. But I laughed it all off. I told myself I was being paranoid, that friendships go through phases. Everyone has slip-ups. They loved me, I was sure of it. I worked hard to prove my worth to them. Whenever someone needed help, I was there. When Alex's car broke down, I was the one who drove across town at midnight to pick him up. When Sarah stressed about finals, I stayed up until 3 a.m. quizzing her. When Jenna went through a bad breakup, I practically moved into her apartment for 2 weeks to keep her from spiraling. Liam, quiet as he was, always thanked me the most. "You're the glue, man," he'd say. And that made me feel like maybe, just maybe, I was needed. Looking back, I see how much of myself I poured into holding us together. I wanted so badly to belong that I ignored the gnawing voice inside me whispering that maybe I was giving more than I was getting. But, at the time, I convinced myself we were perfect. I convinced myself that we were closer than siblings, that nothing could break us. I didn't realize how fragile it all was until one night, months later, when I accidentally overheard the truth. And in that moment, the illusion I had been living in shattered completely. The first Real warning came one evening that should have been ordinary. It was a Thursday, nothing special, and I had wrapped up a long, exhausting shift at the bookstore where I worked part-time. My back ached, my eyes burned from staring at spreadsheets too long, and all I wanted was the comfort of our usual hangout night. Alex had texted earlier in the week that we'd do tacos and trivia at his place, something we hadn't done in months. I looked forward to it all day. That was the fuel that got me through shelving 100 cookbooks and smiling at customers who couldn't decide between hardback or paperback. When I got to Alex's apartment, though, the place was dark. No music, no chatter, no half-empty soda cans lined up on the counter. Just silence. I texted him. Here. Did plans change? 10 minutes ticked by. No reply. Finally, Jenna sent a message in the group chat. So fun tonight. Best idea, Sarah. Love, my stomach twisted. Fun. Tonight. Confused, I scrolled up and realized there was another group chat. One without me. Photos began popping up on Instagram. The 4 of them at a downtown pub, beers clinking, wide smiles plastered across their faces. I just stood there on Alex's doorstep, staring at the phone screen, my heart pounding with a mix of shock and embarrassment. I told myself it was probably a mistake. Maybe Sarah had created a side chat for planning purposes and accidentally left me out. Maybe they'd assumed I was too tired after work. I crafted excuse after excuse in my head, each one more desperate than the last. Anything to avoid the truth that was clawing at me. The next day, I confronted Jenna. Not angrily, more nervously, like a kid asking if they'd done something wrong. Hey, did I miss a message last night? I thought we were all hanging at Alex's. Jenna looked guilty for a split second. Then she smiled too brightly. Oh my God, Daniel, I swear we thought you said you couldn't make it. Didn't you mention a late shift? We didn't want to bug you. Her words didn't line up with reality. I'd been the one who suggested Thursday in the first place. But I laughed it off, forcing myself to believe her. That was the first crack. After that, little things kept happening. Subtle but sharp if you were paying attention. Sarah would forget to tell me about dinner plans until the last minute, leaving me scrambling to show up half-dressed and flustered. Alex started calling me Dad in a mocking way whenever I reminded the group to pay their share of the bill or clean up after parties. Liam, who once leaned on me for advice, grew quieter around me, like my presence made him uncomfortable. One night, when I did manage to join them, I caught a whisper that sliced through the laughter. Alex, thinking I was out of *T, muttered, Daniel just *gills the vibe sometimes. Too serious. Sarah giggled in agreement. I froze, pretending I hadn't heard, while my chest tightened like a fist. I told myself I was imagining it. I told myself every group has inside jokes, that maybe they didn't mean it the way it sounded. But the more I tried to dismiss the signs, the more they piled up. The worst was Jenna. My best friend, the one I trusted most, started pulling away. She stopped answering my texts right away, canceled our one-on-one hangouts, and when we did see each other, she seemed distracted, scrolling on her phone while I talked. Once, in the middle of me telling her about a project I was excited about, she cut me off to laugh at a meme Alex had sent. I wanted to scream, "What happened to us?" But instead, I swallowed it down, smiling like nothing was wrong. I started to notice patterns. They'd laugh louder when I left the room, conversations hushed when I entered. If I brought snacks or offered rides, they thanked me, but their gratitude felt hollow, like politeness covering something colder. The first crack had widened, but I still clung desperately to the idea that everything was fine. Because if it wasn't, if they really were turning on me, then I'd have to face a truth I wasn't ready to accept. Maybe my forever people had never truly been mine at all. After that night, things didn't just feel off. They started to feel hostile, like I'd been quietly voted out of my own circle but no one had the courage to tell me outright. At first, it was little exclusions. The brunches I used to look forward to every Sunday somehow started happening without me. I'd see photos online, Sarah's latte art, Alex's goofy poses, Jenna's captions with too many exclamation marks. Sometimes Liam wasn't in the photos either, but I knew he was there. His car was tagged in the parking lot picture. I told myself they were just forgetting, that it wasn't intentional. So I tested it. One Sunday, I showed up at the diner at our usual time. The waitress, Ellie, who knew us by name, looked surprised. "Didn't you know? They came in an hour ago. Said they were in a rush." The pit in my stomach deepened. Then came the messages, or rather, the lack of them. Where once my phone buzzed non-stop with group chat banter, now it stayed silent. When I texted, the replies were curt, "Busy RN. Later." Sometimes nothing at all. One night, Jenna finally picked up my call after days of radio silence. I could hear voices and laughter in the background. "Hey, Daniel, can I call you back? We're in the middle of something." Before I could respond, she hung up. Seconds later, a new photo appeared on Instagram. Jenna, Alex, Sarah, and Liam crowded around a bar table, glasses raised. No room for me. I started to wonder if I'd done something wrong. Had I offended them? Was I too clingy? Too serious? I replayed conversations in my head, analyzing every word, every laugh, every moment of silence, trying to find the mistake that made them decide I wasn't worth their time. The more I tried to fix things, the worse it got. I brought snacks to Alex's game night, chips, sodas, even homemade brownies. But when I showed up, his roommate blinked at me in confusion. "Oh dude, didn't Alex tell you? They moved game night to Sarah's place." He hadn't. I drove over anyway, brownies in hand, determined not to be left out. But when I arrived, the door was locked, and through the window I could see them all crowded on the couch, laughing at some inside joke. My knock went unanswered. That was the night I sat in my car for nearly an hour, the brownies cooling on the passenger seat, staring at the faint glow of the TV inside. My chest hurt so badly it felt like I couldn't breathe. After that, the isolation became obvious, deliberate. Sarah stopped tagging me in group posts. Alex teased me in front of others, calling me clingy or the dad friend in a tone that made people laugh at me, not with me. Jenna stopped making eye contact altogether. And Liam, he avoided me like I was contagious. The worst part was pretending I didn't notice. Smiling through it, laughing at their jokes, telling myself if I just stayed patient, things would go back to normal. But deep down, I knew something fundamental had shifted. Nights alone in my apartment stretched longer. I scrolled through old group photos, each one now feeling like a lie. My phone, once a lifeline, became a source of dread. Silence where there used to be constant connection. And yet, even then, even as the isolation wrapped around me like a chokehold, I clung to the hope that it was temporary. That if I just held on, they'd realize what I meant to them. I had no idea how wrong I was, or how much worse things were about to get. There's only so long you can convince yourself everything's fine before reality smacks you so hard you can't ignore it anymore. For me, that moment came on a rainy Friday night, when the truth hit me with all the force of a punch to the gut. It started with a mistake. Sarah sent me a message, or at least, she thought she didn't. It was clearly meant for their private group chat, the one I wasn't supposed to know existed. My phone buzzed, and when I saw the preview, my heart dropped. Daniel's probably gonna invite himself again. Someone tell him we're busy before he ruins the night. I stared at the screen, the words burning into me like acid. My chest tightened, my vision blurred, and I kept reading the thread as the replies rolled in, unaware they'd included me by accident. Alex, LOL, right? Dude is so desperate. Sarah, he doesn't get the hint. Jenna, I feel bad but he's exhausting. Always wants to talk about his feelings. Liam, we need to just stop inviting him. Cold turkey. Cold turkey. Like I was some addiction they needed to kick. My stomach twisted violently. My best friend of 5 years, Jenna, had just typed that I was exhausting. The same person who once called me her rock. The same person I'd held while she cried over her breakup. I thought she cared. I thought they all did. That night, I didn't just feel unwanted. I felt erased. But instead of replying, instead of calling them out, I did something worse. I stayed quiet. I watched the typing bubbles vanish, the thread going dead when they realized their mistake. Seconds later, the real group chat must have lit up, because Jenna messaged me separately. Hey. Sorry, plans tonight are cancelled. Rain check. Cancelled. Sure. Except 10 minutes later, Alex posted a photo on his story, all of them crowded around Sarah's living room, pizza boxes stacked high, beers in hand. My heart physically hurt. I wanted to scream, to drive over there and demand answers. But I didn't. I couldn't. Instead, I curled up on the couch in my dark apartment, phone in hand, scrolling through their smiling faces like they were strangers. The pain simmered into anger, then back into pain again. Why didn't they just tell me? Why didn't they just say they didn't want me around anymore? That night, I barely slept. When I did, I dreamed of being locked outside, watching through a window as everyone I loved laughed without me. The next morning, I confronted Jenna. My voice shook, but I forced the words out. I saw the messages. I know what you all really think of me. Her face paled. She stammered, Daniel, it's not what it looked like, but it was. And we both knew it. That was the breaking point. Not because they'd excluded me, not because they mocked me, but because I finally realized the truth. The people I thought were my forever family had already replaced me. I wasn't their friend anymore. I was the punchline. And once that truth sank in, there was no going back. The days after the group chat incident were some of the loneliest of my life. It wasn't just that I'd been excluded, it was that I had proof, undeniable words in black and white, that my so-called friends saw me as a burden, an inconvenience. There was no way to explain it away anymore, no way to sugarcoat the truth. And yet, I didn't block them. I didn't delete the chat. I kept staring at the screen, waiting for someone, anyone, to reach out with an apology. None came. Instead, the silence was deafening. At work, I went through the motions, shelving books and ringing up customers with a plastered smile. At home, the apartment felt colder, emptier, even though nothing had physically changed. I replayed Jenna's stammered excuse in my head, trying to twist it into something kinder. But the more I thought about it, the more it soured. They had chosen this. Still, I couldn't shake the need for answers. So, against my better judgment, I checked their social media obsessively. And that's when I stumbled onto the revelation that would change everything. Sarah had posted an Instagram reel, just a quick video of her and Jenna dancing in Alex's kitchen, Liam holding the camera, everyone laughing. At first, I felt the familiar sting of exclusion. But then I noticed something odd in the background. On the fridge, held up by a magnet, was a printed flyer. I zoomed in. My stomach dropped. It was the invite to my birthday dinner. I had planned it weeks ago, reserved a table at my favorite restaurant, and sent them all the details. But they hadn't shown. Instead, each one had texted me some excuse: work late, feeling sick, family emergency. I'd spent the night eating takeout alone, convincing myself it wasn't their fault. Now, staring at that flyer on the fridge in Alex's kitchen, I realized the truth. They hadn't been busy. They had chosen to spend my birthday together. Without me. The betrayal cut deeper than anything before. It wasn't just carelessness. It wasn't just drifting apart. It was intentional. Fueled by anger, I messaged Liam directly. Why? Why lie about my birthday? 4 hours. No reply. Then finally, look Daniel, it's not personal. We just don't click with you anymore. Hanging out feels heavy. You always want to talk about deep stuff. We just want to relax and have fun. Not personal. My chest burned as I read the words. How could it not be personal? How could erasing me from my own birthday not be personal? I confronted Jenna next, desperate for something different. She replied almost instantly, but her message was worse. Daniel, please understand. We love you, but being around you is draining. You make everything so serious. Sometimes people just grow apart. That word again. Draining. Like I was some leech asterisk king the joy out of their lives. It hit me then. They hadn't just grown apart from me. They had rebranded me in their minds as a problem, a weight they'd been carrying, something to shed so they could feel lighter. The fallout was swift and brutal. One by one, they stopped following me online. Group photos no longer included me. Invitations stopped coming altogether. And whispers reached me through mutual acquaintances, Sarah calling me clingy, Alex saying I couldn't take a joke, Jenna sighing about how I always needed too much. But there was something else I learned too, something that stung even more. A coworker at the bookstore mentioned seeing Alex and Sarah at the cafe across the street. They were laughing about some inside story, she said. I think it was about you. Something about the brownies you brought that one time. My face burned. That night, the night I'd sat in my car, brownies untouched, had become one of their private jokes. That was the big revelation. Not only had they cut me out, they had rewritten our history so that my attempts at kindness, at connection, became punchlines. And as much as it destroyed me to admit, I finally understood. These people weren't my friends anymore. Maybe they never had been. But that realization, as painful as it was, planted the first seed of something I hadn't felt in weeks, anger that pointed outward, not inward. Maybe I couldn't win them back. Maybe I didn't even want to. But I could decide what to do with the truth. And I wasn't done yet. By the time I uncovered the truth about my birthday, something inside me snapped. The pain of rejection had weighed me down for weeks, but now it was morphing into something sharper. Not just grief, not just anger, but a cold determination. If they thought they could erase me quietly, turning my life into a private joke, they were wrong. The first step was simple. I stopped reaching out. No more desperate texts, no more awkward drop-ins, no more pretending not to notice the way they cut me out. I went dark. And for the first time in months, I felt a strange sense of control. But silence wasn't enough. I wanted clarity. I wanted accountability. So I started gathering my own receipts. Every cruel text, every time they lied, every photo they posted while telling me they were busy. I saved it all. Screenshots filled a hidden folder on my phone. Even their accidental group chat leak, the cold turkey thread, I kept safe. It wasn't about revenge. Not really. It was about proving to myself that I wasn't crazy, that the friendship I thought I had didn't just dissolve because of me. They had chosen cruelty, and I had proof. Still, the ache was there. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized I couldn't carry this alone anymore. So, for the first time since everything fell apart, I reached out, not to them, but to someone who still remembered me kindly. Her name was Claire, a girl from my old art class. We'd lost touch when life got busy, but she'd always been genuine. I hesitated, thumb hovering over the send button, before finally typing, "Hey, been a rough couple months. Can we talk?" Her reply came instantly. Of course. Meet at Java Spot. That night, sitting across from her in the warm glow of the cafe, I poured everything out. The texts. The birthday. The isolation. The endless guessing game. She listened without interrupting, her eyes steady, her expression shifting from shock to anger. "Daniel," she said finally, her voice firm. "That's not friendship. That's abuse. You need to stop blaming yourself." Her words were like oxygen. For weeks, I'd been suffocating under the weight of guilt and shame. Now, someone outside the circle confirmed what I already knew deep down. I wasn't imagining it. I wasn't the problem. With Claire's encouragement, I made a decision. I wouldn't hide anymore. I wouldn't let their whispered insults and secret chats dictate my self-worth. If they wanted me gone, they'd have to own it, out loud. So, I planned a confrontation. The opportunity came quicker than I expected. Sarah posted about a rooftop party downtown, open invite. I wasn't on the guest list, obviously, but plenty of mutual friends were going. If they wanted to pretend I didn't exist, I'd make myself impossible to ignore. That Friday night, my hands trembled as I climbed the stairs to the rooftop. The air was cool, the city lights glittering around us, laughter spilling from the crowd. And there they were, Alex, beer in hand, telling some story, Jenna, leaning against Liam, Sarah, snapping selfies. For a moment I froze, fear rooting me in place. But then I spotted Claire in the corner, giving me a small nod of encouragement. My spine straightened. I walked up to them. The chatter died instantly, eyes widening as they realized I'd heard the stories, seen the posts, saved the proof. Why didn't you just tell me? My voice carried over the music, steady despite the quake in my chest. Why lie? Why make me beg for scraps of friendship, only to laugh about it behind my back? The silence that followed was suffocating. Alex looked away. Jenna's lips parted, but no words came. Sarah rolled her eyes, muttering, God, you're making a scene. A scene. I snapped. No. This is the truth you've been too cowardly to say to my face. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. People were watching now. Phones were out. And for the first time, it wasn't me who looked desperate. It was them. That night, I walked away shaking, not because I lost control, but because I finally reclaimed it. The confrontation didn't give me back my friends, but it gave me something better, the first flicker of self-respect. And deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. The real reckoning was still coming. The rooftop confrontation spread faster than I ever expected. By the next morning, clips of the argument were circulating through our college group chats. Someone had recorded Sarah rolling her eyes and dismissing me, and another angle caught my words, "Why didn't you just tell me?" ringing out against the music. For the first time, the story wasn't twisted to make me the needy, clingy one. People saw it for what it was, a group of friends systematically shutting someone out, then mocking them when they thought no one was watching. I didn't plan for it to go viral in our little social bubble, but part of me was glad it did. Their polished masks slipped, and the world saw the cracks I'd been staring at for months. Of course, they reached out afterward. Alex sent a lukewarm text, "You didn't have to do that in public. Could have talked privately." Jenna messaged a half-hearted, "I'm sorry if you felt hurt. Things just got complicated." And Sarah. She doubled down, posting a story captioned, "Some people can't take a hint." I didn't reply to any of them. For once, silence was my choice. Instead, I poured my energy into rebuilding. Claire became my anchor, reminding me that not all connections rot from the inside. Slowly, I started reconnecting with people I'd drifted from, old classmates, co-workers, neighbors I'd waved at but never spoken to. To my surprise, many welcomed me warmly. One night, at the cafe where Claire and I had first talked, she said something that stuck with me. "Friendship isn't about history, Daniel. It's about reciprocity. If you're the only one carrying the weight, it's not a friendship. It's a performance." Those words echoed as I reshaped my life. I quit doom-scrolling their social media. I stopped waiting for apologies that weren't coming. And most importantly, I started investing in myself. I picked up painting again, something I'd abandoned when weekends revolved around them. I applied for a promotion at the bookstore, finally believing I was capable of leading. And I spent more time with people who actually wanted me around, not just tolerated me. The funny thing about liberation is that it doesn't come with fireworks or confetti. It comes in quiet moments, sipping coffee alone without bitterness, laughing with new friends without second-guessing, realizing that the silence from old ones doesn't hurt anymore. But there was one final closure I didn't expect. Weeks later, Jenna showed up at the bookstore. She hovered by the counter, nervous, clutching a coffee cup. "Daniel," she said, "I just wanted to say sorry. Not for everything, I guess, but for not standing up. For letting it happen." Her voice cracked, and for the first time, I believed she meant it. Still, I shook my head gently. "Jenna, I appreciate that. But it's too late. I can't go back to how things were." "I won't." She nodded, tears in her eyes, and walked out. That moment was bittersweet, but it cemented what I already knew. Forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes it just means setting down the weight so you can keep walking forward. Now, months later, I feel stronger. Not invincible, not immune to loneliness, but whole. My life isn't defined by who abandoned me, it's defined by who chose to stay, and most importantly, by the fact that I chose myself. When I think back to that night, standing outside the apartment door, overhearing the words that shattered me, I don't feel the same sting anymore. Instead, I feel grateful. Because without that moment, I might have spent years clinging to people who didn't value me. Losing them hurt. But losing myself would have been worse. And in the end, I didn't lose. I found out who I was when everything else was stripped away.